everyone. This is the Wellness Project with Des, and we are powered by Spotlight Coalition. A few weeks ago, I was supposed to be a guest on a podcast talking about the benefits that animals have on our mental health. I went to my Google Calendar to log into the meeting. I didn't know if it was going to be on Zoom or Google Meets, but I went to log in and there was no link at all. And then I noticed that the host of that podcast had responded to the invitation that they sent me as maybe. I thought this whole thing was very strange as we had confirmed it weeks ago through email, and I had RSVP'd yes to the calendar invite. I hadn't noticed that they RSVP'd maybe. I was debating emailing them and saying, hey, I don't see a link, but honestly, from the beginning, I had gotten very strange vibes. They asked me what exactly I wanted to talk about and my experience with animals, and I had told them that Mark and I run a cat rescue on the side and that we foster and socialize animals, and I've been a big animal lover since I was a little kid, as well as my experience working with kids in an outpatient mental health clinic, and some of them would actually bring their pets. And pets were a regular topic of conversation with the kids. She asked me what I wanted to talk about, and I said, I could talk about the impact that pets make on mental health. I could talk about cat rescue. I could talk about my experience with pets. I could talk about grief over losing a pet. I gave a ton of topics, and she said, I'll follow up with you. We need to have a conversation to flesh this out a bit. She asked me again like a week or two later what I wanted to talk about, so it was just very strange, and then she never scheduled a follow-up conversation. So I was debating emailing her, but I decided to just let it go because of the kind of strange conversation and strange vibes that I was getting from her already, and kind of just decided to see if I was going to get an email. So within 15 minutes, it was apparent that I was stood up. About an hour to an hour and a half later, she emailed me saying, that time doesn't work for me. I didn't respond, and that was that. It was a very strange experience because having a podcast, it's pretty professional, and I always try my best to be professional when it comes to interviewing people. I wasn't too upset about this, but I was a little annoyed because I did spend some time looking up things, looking up the impact that animals do have on mental health, looking up different studies, which I felt at that time that was a waste of my time that I did that. But I shared this story on my TikTok, and I actually got a few comments from people saying that they wanted me to share the information that I had, which I thought was really cool. So I made a few TikTok posts about animals and mental health, and so I decided to share that information here as well, and I'm also in the process of writing a blog about it. And coincidentally enough, so funny, someone reached out to me asking me to be a guest on their podcast that's about pets and talk about the impact that pets have on mental health. So funny, I ended up being a guest on a different podcast about pets and talked about mental health anyway. So that was really funny. And that podcast is called The Story of My Pet Podcast. So definitely go check out the episode that I'm in. We talk a lot about cats because I run a cat rescue with Mark. So definitely go check that out and follow her Instagram. Really, really cool. And I think I actually want to have her on here as a guest because we had such a great conversation. So I think it would be really cool to interview her about the impact that pets have had on her mental health. So keep a lookout for that as well. So this episode is going to be about animals and mental health. I want to start this episode off with just a little experiment that I was a part of in graduate school. For one of my classes, I honestly don't remember which class, but I remember sitting in the classroom. I remember what it looks like, but I can't remember which class it was. But we all had to do a kind of little experiment and then write a paper about it. This was a late afternoon or maybe even evening class. I remember us all being very tired and not in a bad mood, but just very sluggish and very blah. One of my classmates passed out a piece of paper where we had to rate our mood. We had to rate if we were tired. We had to rate if we were sad, mad. We just had to kind of take a little survey about where we were at in that moment. She handed them out, we filled them out, and she collected them. Then she goes and opens the door, and a ton of dogs run into the room. I think there were maybe like 3 or 4 of them. I can't remember. But we all just squealed in delight. We were so excited. We were so happy. We all freaked out. We were playing with the dogs. We were playing with the puppies. Oh, we were so excited. We were so happy. So then she handed us out that same survey for all of us to fill out. And all of our moods were completely elevated, completely boosted by these dogs entering the room. We were all so excited and wide awake all of a sudden. So I thought that was a really cool experiment. Obviously, not a peer-reviewed study or anything, but I thought that experiment was really cool just to show how our moods have shifted before and after the dogs were introduced. And it was just so obvious. The room just exploded in joy. So I thought that was a really cool experiment and really cool to see. So, as I said before, I was a therapist at an outpatient mental health clinic and I was on the children's unit. So, I worked with kids between 5 and 19 years old. They regularly brought up their pets in conversation. It was always really hard when the pets would pass away and we would have to work through that grief because the death of a pet impacts, anyone so much, but it impacts children so much. They view their pets as their best friend. It always made a really big impact on them. There were even clients that I had that would bring in hamsters or even their pet rats or things like that. I had that happen a few times. A lot of times the parents would wait in the car for their children to come out of the session, and a lot of times they would bring their dogs along, and the client would always want me to meet their pets. So that was really cool too, that I would actually get to meet a lot of the pets. Mark and I run a cat rescue on the side. You can follow that Instagram page and that Facebook page. I'll link them in the show notes. It's called Cat Rescue Crew. So what we do is we rescue stray cats, whether they're feral or domesticated. So it depends on the cat. But a lot of times what we've encountered is that it's a lot of elderly people feeding these colonies of cats, and they become so attached to them. They name them, they know exactly who's there, they know their story, they feed them every day, multiple times a day. And the elderly people that are the caretakers of these cats get very, very attached to them to the point that they call us to help them. So we trap them and we get them fixed, we get them vaccinated, get them the vet care that they need, the health care they need. And even though these people do call us to help them and trap the cats, they almost always cry when we trap the cats because they get so emotional if the cat is scared or if it's going to be okay. They don't want the cat to be mad at them. So that's something we regularly encounter. One study I read said that it tested the benefits of pets or taking care of an animal on people's mental health. Now, the interesting part of this study was that it didn't matter what kind of animal it was. It didn't matter if it was a cat, a dog, a bird, a reptile, or even crickets. In one case, they gave people crickets, and they saw a lot of the similar benefits that a cat or dog would give you. Animals give people a sense of purpose and meaning. They give you that sense of belonging and responsibility. They really help you to feel less lonely, which is why I think a lot of the people that we've interacted with are elderly people feeding these stray cats and taking care of these cat colonies. It gives them that sense of connection and that sense of responsibility and feeling needed and loved. Pets are great for people that struggle with depression because they give you a reason to get up and start your day. One of the symptoms of depression is having a really hard time getting out of bed, even though you may not be sleeping at all, because another symptom of depression is either sleeping too much or sleeping too little and having insomnia, having a lot of sleep problems. But a lot of people that struggle with depression have a hard time getting out of bed. Pets give you a reason to get up and start your day. Animals provide companionship, support, and they give you that sense of responsibility and nurturing to have someone depend on you. Taking care of a pet has been shown to reduce stress, reduce anxiety, decrease depressive symptoms, to help you feel less lonely, and give you a social connection, especially for those that feel really lonely and don't have close relationships with other people. Having a pet also has physical benefits to you, such as lowering your blood pressure. And it definitely depends on the animal because I think this is more with horses and dogs, but they encourage you to be more active. You have to get up and walk a dog every day. And again, it depends on the animal, but some animals will get you outside regularly where you'll get that vitamin D, that sunshine and fresh air. It's also shown that animals raise your dopamine and serotonin, which are known as your happy hormones, and they lower cortisol, which is known as your stress hormone. So time and time again, studies are showing that animals are great for mental health. And if you have pets, you could probably attest to this. Now, if you don't have pets, whether it's because you're allergic or somebody in your family that you live with is allergic, Or sometimes you just know that you can't handle that responsibility because having a pet is a lot of responsibility and it's a big financial responsibility. My cat Lily is 16 years old and she makes us bankrupt. She costs us hundreds of dollars every month and thousands of dollars a year because since I've had her, since she's 4 years old, so that's when I got her, she has had nothing but health issues. She is a very medically needy cat, so I understand people not having pets, but if you do want that benefit and you do love animals, I always recommend volunteering with animals. For years, Mark and I have been volunteering with different animal shelters, and it's been such a great experience. We used to go almost every Saturday and we would clean the litter boxes, we would play with the cats, we would socialize the shy cats, we would play with them with different toys, we would feed them, change their water. It was such a great experience and it's some of my fondest memories. We had so much fun, and when family would visit, we would bring them there with us because it was just such a great experience. So I've brought my sisters there, my aunt, different friends. Oh, I just love it. So if you're not in the place to have a pet or you can't, maybe your apartment doesn't allow pets because so many apartments don't allow pets, don't even get me started on that, or they have an unreasonable pet fee, don't even get me started. I could rant about this forever. But if you need a pet fix, look into your local shelter and see if you could volunteer with them. I hope this was helpful because I think animals have such a huge impact on our mental health because they just give you that unconditional love. They love you so much, and we all need some more love in our lives. If you have a pet, I would love to see it. Follow me on Instagram. All my links are in the show notes. And send me a picture of your pet and tell me about them. I love seeing other people's pets. I hope you have a wonderful day. Now go spend time with an animal in your life. Talk to you soon.